Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Moto Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Luke Nesler, coming to you quarantined from my beautiful home in Morgantown, West Virginia. We sent our staff home to work remotely late last week. We are still fully operational, thank goodness. We're just doing so from the comforts of our home. I wanted to get you a little bit more long-form piece of content. Normally, our Moto Marketing Podcast episodes are 35 to 45 minutes, and I wanted to bring a guest on that I knew could bring some heat for, about an hour to give you guys a little bit more something to sink your teeth into. I also wanted the guest to be interesting. So I reached out to my friend, Tyler Pierce. Many of you may know him as the Vegan Cyclist on YouTube. If you're unfamiliar, Tyler is a massive fan of Moto. He and his son go ride at the local tracks where he lives in Colorado. They also, not Colorado, California. They also attended one of the Supercross Future races. Tyler, yes, he's a cyclist, a very talented one, and he has a large cycling following on YouTube. I believe it's the second or third largest cycling YouTube channel. Tyler knows his stuff when it comes to Moto, a former dealership owner. We talk about that. A little bit different than any content you might have heard from Vegan Cyclist in the past. He has been on AJ Catanzaro's podcast to talk Moto, but what we're bringing you today is not really necessarily Moto nor cycling. It is really hearing his journey at a time that I think this story is relevant. Hearing his journey of going from a brick and mortar that ultimately failed when he was running his dealership to where he's at today, running multiple online businesses, growing a personal brand that is bringing revenue to him and his family. And he talks about that. And at a time that so many folks are unfortunately only had that one stream of income being through their brick and mortar and counting door swings and all of the industry talk, those folks are temporarily shut down. So Tyler and I talk about that. Where would he be today if he owned that dealership and he had to mandatorily shut down for a week to 2 weeks? Well, he'd be out of business. And we talk about that transition from his brick and mortar to his online and how you can make that transition. It's a very interesting conversation. We cover a lot of ground. We also cover content creation and growing the brand and monetizing the brand, something that I think you guys are going to enjoy. I hope that you do. Let me know if you do. Follow me on Instagram at Luke Nesler, LukeNesler. And I do want your criticisms and your feedback. If you like what you heard from Tyler, if you have some other guests that you think would bring some interesting, valuable content to the listeners, this show is your show. I want you to tell me how I can make it better for you. You can also send me questions at questions@motomarketingpodcast.com. I appreciate you listening. Hope you're staying well. Hope you're staying safe. Without further ado, here is Tyler Pierce, the Vegan Cyclist, on the Moto Marketing Podcast.
Welcome to the Moto Marketing Podcast, presented by RacerX, the podcast for moto industry professionals, entrepreneurs, and riders. If you want to grow your brand and business in today's digital-first world, you have to know how to turn a stranger into a fan, turn a like into a customer. You have to know how to turn attention into dollars. This podcast is dedicated to keeping you in the know on real marketing tactics that work in the moto world so that you grow your business and help grow the sport. Get ready to learn from the very same marketing experts trusted by RacerX, Lucas Oil Pro Motocross, GNCC, and NBC Sports. They'll help you navigate the world of digital marketing for your moto brand. This is the Moto Marketing Podcast. Presented by RacerX.
All right, guys, as promised, we got a good episode for you today on the Moto Marketing Podcast. We have Tyler Pierce joining us. Many of you may know him as the Vegan Cyclist, or VC. Many of you have probably heard him on Behind the Gate, AJ Catanzaro's podcast. He's been a guest on there a couple of times. Somebody that I have come to know over the last few years, found him on YouTube, and have realized there's a lot more to Tyler and his story than just his YouTube personality, his YouTube channel. So, Tyler, excited to have you on the show today and to dive into some pretty important things, I think, especially going on with what's happening in the world today. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, man. And the guests you've already had, it's like such a stacked, lineup. So it's honestly super crazy for me to be here. And I'm sure there's people being like, why, dude, this vegan guy is like infiltrating the moto industry, like, why is he, what is this dude? And I'm really excited to jump into talking more about business and, how I owned a motorcycle shop, a brick and mortar shop, and, for 4 years. And that, I have a lot to say about the moto industry, especially when we're talking, business to business or just kind of industry insider stuff from my experience. It's changed a lot since 2004 to 2008, but I'm not going to yell at you about bananas. We're talking business.
That's right. Yeah. So for those that maybe aren't familiar with you and your channel, it's not something that you have some type of an agenda to turn everybody that watches into a vegan. I am not a vegan. I love your channel, watch it all the time. And then I've realized here in the last year or so, just how involved you are in moto from a fan, and your son is a big fan of it as well. And then also you were involved as a businessman in the moto space. So yes, you're a cyclist. Several moto guys use cycling as training, so you have that connection, but then just your knowledge of as far as being a fan and a previous business owner in the moto space, I think pertains. So let's I know you had some things that you really wanted to kind of get off your chest and talk about. So let's dive into that. Where do you want to start? Do you want to talk about your involvement with the dealership, or were you hoping to start somewhere else?
Well, yeah, I'll just kind of piggyback off of what you were just saying about, my agenda and my channel and that sort of thing. And the idea is that like the word vegan is so militarized, it's charged. It's always, usually backed by someone that's got this major agenda, or they're being like an activist. And I definitely a little bit regret naming my channel the Vegan Cyclist. At the time I did it, it was an SEO move. We're talking about business wise, and the whole purpose of it was that there was already a YouTuber that had a lot of success, and no one could spell his name. It was Durin Rider, and no one knew how to type that in or how to even pronounce it. Durin is a type of fruit that sucks. If you ever get a chance to eat Durin, do not do that. It is.
Yeah.
Someone said
that's what that was. I wondered. I'm like, why is his name that?
Bro, Durin is disgusting. So I had this guy who he exports and imports exotic fruit from Miami, and he brought me some, and he opened it up, and it looks like an alien, like from the Alien, episode of like this thing coming out. It's so weird, dude. And he said, I'm like, what's it taste like? And he says, it kind of tastes like sour cream and onion ice cream. And I was like, that is the worst way to introduce me to this fruit, bro. Like, I don't want that. Yeah. I do not want sour cream and onion ice cream. And then I took a bite, and that's exactly what it tastes like.
Oh my.
So anyway, terrible fruit. So I was looking at because when you first start something, it's so difficult, right? It doesn't matter how great of an idea you have. Or like, even if you're going to start creating content, maybe you go out and you spend $100,000 on your first piece of content. Well, if you have no audience, that might get 10 views. And you can find, if you go down the rabbit hole, you can find a lot of YouTube channels that are just, the content is so beautiful, so well done, so much money behind it, and no one is watching it. And so I'm like, well, if I'm going to spend all this time on my videos, I want to reach a bigger audience. So I put into Google. At the time, you could type into like Google Trends or Google keywords, and it would show you, what the biggest like people searching for that. And so anyway, so people were typing in the Vegan Cyclist into YouTube and Google, trying to find Durin Rider. And I saw that was available on YouTube. I was like, bro, I'm going to jump on this bandwagon real quick right here, thinking that I was going to go much more into the vegan side. Because when you first start doing something, no matter what it is, jiu-jitsu, moto, being vegan, being paleo, if you want to do an all meat diet, whatever it is that when you first start it, you kind of want to talk about that a lot. Like everyone's guilty to being real hardcore about something they just started. And I just kind of quickly didn't really identify with the core vegan community. And I was like, man, I might've made a mistake. And so then I sort of went a little bit more towards cycling, but the brand was already solidified. By the time I really started thinking about maybe I should change this, it's already something that's now my identity. So if we're talking about marketing, I think a lot of people get into business without really thinking where it's going to go. Everyone's like, oh, dude, this idea is not going to, it would be great if it was something, but you don't put a lot of thought into the initial decisions that could affect you long term.
Sure. Yeah. And I think it's something that I agree with you. It also proves the point that the name of anything really doesn't matter. And I've heard people use this example. What the hell does Google mean? Nobody knows. Massive success. You going with the brand Vegan Cyclist. Yeah, I'm sure you have a lot of vegetarians and vegans that follow your channel, but you've also got a lot of guys that aren't. So I think it's something that, yeah, definitely you want to think the brand through. But I think I get a lot of clients that come to me and they're so hung up on getting something perfect before they start because they think it's going to make or break, when sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. And I think you're a testament that you've taken your channel so far, and it hasn't all been about, the vegan lifestyle, that, the name didn't hold you back.
Yeah, but the name definitely does. Because I can see the comments that I get, and
hold you back to a degree, and you're seeing that. Is that what you're saying?
A lot of times, yeah. So probably the most common comment that I get is, "Oh wow, I didn't watch your stuff for so long because I thought you were annoying, but then I watched this one video. Oh, it's a good video."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's yeah. You don't have to put a ton of thought. I think, or it doesn't have to be perfect, right? Done and out is much better than perfect and not out. Right. So. But it's just the word vegan is so charged, you know what I mean? But also I do really like that it gives this background idea to health, right? And not that I'm some health guru, but the fact that you're watching this and it's just whatever. And then in the back of your mind, you kind of start thinking, maybe I should eat a carrot every once in a while. You know what I mean? And not that you have to be fully vegan. And I've never literally told anyone to go fully vegan. But it just gets in your mind to start being a little bit healthier, and man, changing lives is a very rewarding feeling. And so, that's been good. But also to your point, Google is actually it's a number with 1,000 zeros behind it.
Is that what I always wondered what, so it actually means
it's spelled a little bit different, but it's a Google or something is it's a measurement of a number that's massive.
That's good to know. I always wondered what that was. So let's talk about this, because I think that obviously, like I told you, I'm going to push this episode out pretty quick. So we're recording this on Friday, March 20th. As I sit here talking to Tyler, we're in Morgantown, West Virginia, and we have a 4,000 square foot office. We have about 12 people that work here. It's myself and my business partner in our office right now because my staff is working remote due to the COVID-19 outbreak. I am super blessed to have a business that can operate because we are an online marketing company. We help our clients generate sales online. The majority of our clients are super blessed to be in the situation they are because they sell online. And Tyler, before we jumped on, you were talking about, dude, if I had my brick and mortar business and I was out of work, shut down for a week, I'd be screwed. And that was the life that you lived before you've built what you also have an online business yourself. So let's talk about that.
So I really learned a lot from my brick and mortar business. And one of my biggest takeaways was to not limit yourself to foot traffic. And obviously I think now by 2020, everyone's very comfortable with shopping online. But that wasn't the case in 2004. It was you're going to buy oil online. You're going to buy a t-shirt online? Like, no, dude, you need to go to a place. And so, when I first started, it was 2004, and the housing market was ridiculous. I mean, you could say pretty please with the cherry on top and they'd give you a bunch of money. And so I was 18. I refinanced my home. I pulled $50,000 out. And at 18, $50,000 is an unlimited amount of money. And so I was just like, oh my goodness, I'm going to rule the world. And so then I really got into the moto industry. It was something that I was really passionate about. The initial business model was these little like Chinese pit bikes, like it was like a real big thing at the moment. I think like Honda's motor patent lapsed or something. And so then there was just all these Chinese little pit bikes everywhere. And so I was going to sell those and like t-shirts and clothes, like No Fear, Metal Militia, that kind of stuff. And so I got into this.
Was this back when you remember 50 Nuts, the video series that was like huge? It was just guys on pit bikes doing like freestyle dirt jumps. Was it like, we're talking like back in that day when pit bikes were super popping, or is this something else?
Yeah, it was like pretty much right around where that was big, right? I think BWR was like a big company in that scene. But so, you could get these little pit bikes from China, like on a pallet, and you'd get them for like $200 a bike. And then what I would do actually is, it was a good moneymaker, is that I would then buy CRF 50 graphics that was like Monster, Rockstar, Metal Militia. So everyone else in my area was trying to sell these. Like there was just dudes on the side of the road trying to sell these. And it was just like red or blue. But mine had the Metal Militia sticker kit or the Rockstar sticker kit or the Monster Energy, and dude, people were all over it. So that I would buy them for $200 a pop and flip them for around $1,000. And so that was like pretty sweet. Anyway, so I get into this little tiny. So the place that I chose to have my brick and mortar was, I didn't know what I was doing, and when I had to sign a lease, I was 18. So the people gambling on me, right? They were like, well, we're not going to put you in a prime spot because you're most likely going to go out of business. And so I had to find a location that was like zoned properly. And anyway, I ended up getting on Main Street, but the way they built this building, it was backwards. So my front entrance wasn't facing the main street of the town. That was the back of my business. And so then my address was really weird because you couldn't tell someone how to get there. And it's like hard to tell you without saying, but my location sucked. I mean, it was like you could not find my place if you tried. And so that was really difficult. But I don't know, man. I kind of like stumbled into some good success in the first year. Then I expanded to do parts and accessories. And that's when I started working with like Parts Unlimited, Western Power Sports, Tuckeraki, I think is what their name was. And so, but dude, I'm so young. I have no idea about profit margins at all. Because when you go to buy a thing, you just think, oh, this guy's making so much money off this stuff. But when you think, roughly, there's about a 50% markup on the stuff. So if you sold a helmet for $200, maybe you make 100.
Right.
But out of that 100, now you got to pay for your lights. You got to pay for your security system. You got to pay for your insurance. You got to pay for yourself to eat and your mortgage. And so when I first started, I was trying to compete with the big guys, and so I'd give big discounts. I'd give like a 20% discount. Well, but so now my profit margin is 30%. And then now when they bring it back and they return it, it's like, I just quickly got into a situation where I was like hemorrhaging money. and I had to continue to make more money every month. And so I don't know what that's called when a business is in like a unsustainable business model where every quarter or every month they have to make more money than they did before.
Right.
And that can grow to a certain point. But at a certain point, I'm fixed with how many people can physically fit in my location.
Right.
Right. And so that was something as I was going was like, this isn't going to work. Like if I had 1,000 people in my store every day, every second, at a certain point, there's going to be a cap. Right.
Did you have overhead from the standpoint of did you have staff members as well, or were you running super lean and it was just you and maybe a buddy?
It was me and my girlfriend.
Yeah.
And that's what now my wife, right. I mean, she was just this little blonde bombshell, and that was it. I did dabble with doing employment, but it's like at the time it's, what else am I going to do? Am I going to hire someone and then go sit at home? Like I was just going to hang out at the shop. And so then what was crazy is when I got in with Parts Unlimited, their buy-in was huge. Like you had to, like I didn't understand. I was like, so to buy a single Thor jersey, because Thor was like the big brand,
right?
To buy a single Thor jersey, I had to spend $10,000 with Parts Unlimited to get the right to sell Thor. And it was like, oh my goodness. And so, I pulled more money out of my house and I made this huge buy-in with Parts Unlimited and what was crazy is at the time, I don't know if someone messed up on the math, but they had certain incentives. And if you buy in certain amount, we'll lock you in at a discount on this brand. And so I ended up doing $20,000 worth of Dunlop tires. And that put me in this position where I was actually getting it below cost. And then I got locked into that. And so then around my third year in business, I got a tire machine. I could spin tires off. And I was losing money everywhere else in the shop, just constantly, because I'd have to compete with the bigger brands or the bigger brick and mortars, the dealerships. And so everything I was losing money on just to make a sale, except for tires and turning the tires off. So someone would bring me, their motorcycle, their dirt bike or street bike, and I could get Dunlops for I don't know, $40 a tire. It was so ridiculous. And then I could sell them for $120. And then I would charge $20 per tire to take off. And that was basically how I kept the lights on. I mean, I'd get 3 or 4 people a day to come in and I stocked the tires. So I was making a great margin on the tires. And then the labor to spin a tire off was no big deal. And so that was just by total luck, I'm 20 at this point, have no idea what I'm doing, and just somehow fell into having kick-ass pricing on Dunlop tires and then a tire machine. And that was where the margin was.
So when you were in this, obviously the internet was around, but it's nowhere near what it is today. If you were trying to think the best way to ask this, do you think that dealerships today, knowing what you know enough to where you can relate to a dealership today, even though that model has changed over the years, do you think dealerships today need to have a component of their business that is online, whether it be merchandise, whatever it is, to where they're missing out on market share because they're strictly, you got to walk through our doors to transact with us? Or do you not feel that online business works for the dealership model?
E-commerce, you have to have e-commerce. There is to not have e-commerce in this day and age is ridiculous. One crazy thing is that people still don't take freaking credit cards, man. You'll go into a location sometimes and they're like, oh, sorry, it's just cash. Excuse me? You know what I mean? What are you talking about? You need to get into the digital age. And I know that it's difficult sometimes, but so, for one part of this is, during that time, during the 4-year span, I didn't have e-commerce, but you couldn't really do much. The distributors like Parts Unlimited, they were very strict about their MAP policy, posting anything online. You couldn't. I believe Thor, you could not advertise that online unless you were one of 3 online retailers, right? So there is some stipulations and some things that maybe potentially the industry that you're in, you can't necessarily actually make a transaction online, but putting that stuff up online, having an online catalog is a game changer. In the cycling realm, I just don't understand this. There are so many local bike shops that their website is just a 1-page thing with their location. Why are you not putting the stock of bikes that you have? Maybe you can't sell them online. Maybe there is a reason why you can't sell that online.
Sure.
But you need to take the time to put what it is that you have. I want to browse online, find what it is that I want. Most likely I'm just going to order online from somewhere. But maybe it's in stock at my local, bike shop. Well, now I'm going to go down there and check it out. The idea that I'm going to go and just noodle around a brick and mortar place and have no idea what I don't know, man. That's like 15% of the market.
I think there's a ton of missed opportunity too in the moto space, to where, we'll use an East Coast cross country series, the GNCC series. You've got dealerships that sponsor and support several riders that are getting attention and doing well at this series. They have a presence in the pits. Maybe 1,200 riders engage with that brand, but then they can't buy from them because they're in Bridgeport, West Virginia. Well, if that brand had an online presence, now you're able to buy from them in North Carolina. You're able to buy from them in Ohio, even though they're in Bridgeport, West Virginia. I think what's sad is the BMX community, the BMX racing community, is doing a better job than some of the moto spaces. There's a bike shop called Powers Bike Shop. He travels around every single one of the BMX nationals, and he makes his money from people that interact with him at that race. They're buying from him online before they go to the brick and mortar shop, because they've interacted with Chad, and Chad has an online Shopify store to where they can buy the set of FBM bars if they want to buy it. That opportunity is there for dealerships. They're just not making it the migration over. And the same thing with bike shops. Exactly what you just said. I see the bike shop that supports my team and supports me. They don't have an online presence to where I can buy that chamois online. If I don't want to go to the dealership or the store, I can still get it on the internet. So I do think there's a lot of missed opportunity.
Well, and think about that business model. Like you're in the ad business, right? If I came to you and I said, hey, I want to spend X amount of dollars to advertise. And you said, well, we can only advertise to the people within a 5-minute drive of your physical location.
Yeah.
You'd be like, well, no, I want to reach more people, right. But that's what you're doing when you throw a logo on someone and you don't have, even if you have an online, a way to buy online, if it's not streamlined, if it's not practical, if it's not easy to use, you're just throwing your marketing dollars literally down the trash. And so you really need to have multiple ways for people to bring that money in it. And that kind of goes into like multiple revenue streams. And, sometimes people, they get really big and they're just like, hey, it worked. It's been working for 20 years. My day job is in the aftermarket off-road industry, like cars and Jeeps and trucks and that sort of thing. And we've had meetings with people. I don't want to put someone on blast, but we had a big meeting with Maglite. Maglite is huge, right? And like, I know what Maglite is. But when we had a conversation with them, they were telling us that their sales had just fallen off a cliff. And they were just like, we don't understand why. And then we start looking at their online presence, just as through Amazon or eBay or online retailers, and their data and how they were presenting their product was strictly brand oriented. Hey, this is Maglite, bro, buy it. Right. But then you're compared to these other ones that are like, well, here's the lumens, this is how bright this flashlight is. Here's how light the flashlight is. Here's what it's made of. All these specs. And so you look at the two side by side and you're like, well, they look pretty much the same. I don't know what this Maglite does. I don't know how bright it is. It's just a Maglite. And this other one, well, I know everything right here online. And so then you're going to gravitate towards what you feel comfortable buying. And so even if, again, you're in the moto industry and there's certain things you can't sell online or you feel constricted on that, just giving more specs on it and giving someone the confidence to buy that, and then again, like I said, if you're going to start advertising, where are people going to go? How are you going to funnel them in?
Yeah. Well, and you bring up a good point. You just said people have the mindset of it works. We've been doing this for years, but we're in the middle of something that is a good example of this. How prepared were you, Mr. Dealership, that has been around for 25, 35, 45 years, how prepared were you for literally the world to shut down? On the flip side, we have a client. It's a dealership. They have a massive online presence. They're selling thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars worth of just gear. They're selling more FXR gear than FXR is sometimes week over week. It's not hurting them at the same way that the dealership that has done great for 50 years that is now shut down and had to lay their staff off. And it's not to be blunt and rude. It's you don't know just because you've done well for 50 years that business model is going to support you through something that's unexpected, when without a doubt, when we're sitting at home and we have nothing better to do than this and we're drooling at the mouth and can't wait to go ride, some of these people are still going to buy product, as opposed to they're definitely not going to walk through your doors, at least for 2 weeks in some parts of the country.
Well, I literally just bought something off of motorsport.com. I needed some oil because the tracks are still open. I'm going to go throw some whippies on Sunday. And, but my dealership where I would buy this oil, they're closed. I can't even do it. And obviously this is a very unique time in the world, but still it's one of these things of being prepared and having a business model that is able to adapt. And so, I listened to this book, Start With Why, and the audiobook. And it was like, one of the things that he had said that I kind of resonated with is to not label your business as something concrete. So like he was giving an example of the train system. He was like, if the railroad companies were just in the business of transportation, then when railroads started to become obsolete, they would have moved into something else. They would have adapted. But since they are the railroad company, they're so hard and stuck to that, and then it just fades away, right? And so if Blockbuster was in the rental entertainment business, not the brick and mortar, like exchange your VHS, they would have seen an opportunity because their business model is far reaching. Exactly. And so you're looking back on my experience of, running a shop, expanding into a big area, trying to actually I was trying to sell dirt bikes at one point, but it was so insane. The politics behind actually selling motorcycles was a huge eye opener for me. I was trying to sell like Honda, and they're like, you have to show a screenshot of like $1 million in your bank. Plus you have to like give us $1 million like retainer. And then you can only buy like these 3 models. It was insane. It was like, so, if you want to talk about risk versus reward or like return on investment, when I was looking at the profit margins of selling a CRF 50, like a actual Honda, it's like, dude, I'm risking millions of dollars to make peanuts. I got into selling race fuel, VP race fuel. And I was like, I got this huge shipment because I had to buy in, and I was literally making 30 cents on a 5-gallon thing of VP racing fuel. And not only am I risking my life, because if the shit blew up in my shop, you know what I mean? But I'm having to spend $2,500 every month to like get this shipment, and I'm making $150. Yep. That's ridiculous. And so when you start thinking about profit margin, you're also then thinking about your overhead. And so when my business failed, which it failed in like the end of 2007, right about 2008, which the economy's collapsing, right? So it's not like, I didn't run it very well, but a lot of people went out of business, so it's not like I didn't. There's a good reason I went out of business. I at least feel good about that. But so, looking back on it and trying to think about like, how did I fail? It was just that I had so much overhead that towards the end of my business, I was having to gross $30,000 a month just to keep the doors open, right? And it's like, man, that's how much do you have to sell, right? And then I lost so I couldn't pay the economy started to fall. I had a rolling credit with Parts Unlimited. because that's like everything as people were ordering from there. I mean, it was, I was spending a ton of money with them. I missed one payment. I was like, hey, things are a little slow right now. Cause it was like, as everything was collapsing, I was like, hey, I can't make this payment. Is that okay? And they're like, well, that's fine, but you can't order anymore until you make that payment. And then, that was 80% of my business. And so then basically within 1 week, I went out of business because I couldn't fulfill any orders. Like people would come in and like, hey, get me this Thor jersey. I'm like, I can't order from Parts Unlimited right now. And so that was like, I put all my eggs into one basket. Everything was dependent that Parts Unlimited was going to keep giving me shit. And then when I lost that, it was like, again, man, if I had a online presence, if I had any other revenue stream other than basically everything was coming from Parts Unlimited, maybe it would have been a little different.
Yeah. Well, so let's fast forward to today, because I think what's interesting about you live such a really unique and cool lifestyle, because I can see that you've learned from your past experience. You've rebuilt your empire, so to speak, and it's all allows you to be mobile, work from wherever you want to work. It's all online. You've got multiple businesses, including a clothing brand, a personal brand with the Vegan Cyclist, as well as your technology companies. It allows you to do what you truly enjoy, which is cycling, and do it at a level that really only the pros get to do, because you have this freedom, you have this time, and you have this ability to withstand the situation that our country is currently in, to where with you, you're like, yeah, my business isn't shut down because I don't have to be. I operate online. What is your level of panic right now in the world, as opposed to where Tyler would be in 2000 and whatever it was when you had your dealership? Let's kind of start there.
Yeah. If this happened in 2005, I'm done. I'm smoked. There is not even a chance that I recover from this. I would be within 1 week completely bankrupt. I would have lost everything, no matter how good I was doing at the time. Because like, what's so scary is right now, more people are going to go bankrupt than die from this virus. Yeah. It is going to destroy people's livelihoods. And so it is what it is. You do everything you can. I remember when I had the shop, it wasn't like I was just farting around. Every day I was doing everything I could to keep the lights on. And when you're in that mentality of like, it is 9 to 9, forget a 9 to 5. You are working the whole time. There's just not like, it's easy to say, hey, build an online presence. Right. But if you're everything, because I was the janitor, I was the marketer, I was the salesman, I was the CEO, like I was everything. You just don't have the bandwidth to expand into those markets. And then if you don't really know what you're doing, it can be very frustrating and very confusing. And, one of the business that I own is an e-commerce web development business. And we have a lot of clients come to us that have spent $100,000 on their e-commerce website and it still don't work, right? Like they still don't actually have a way to sell shit online, which is one of those ways of, if you don't know what you're doing, you could get into bed with a developer who thinks they know e-commerce, but once they start getting into fitment, how do you deal with fitment? You want to sell parts online? Well, how do you catalog for a KX250F versus a YZ versus a KTM versus a pit bike? That rapidly gets into a situation where, the dollar amount goes through the roof. But so 2005, I'm smoked. No chance of recovery. 2020 right now, I'm not pumped. 2020, I was like poised to literally have some life-changing deals and just 2020 was looking really good. Now, not so much, but I'm not worried that I'm going to go homeless.
Yeah.
And that comes from having multiple revenue streams in different markets. Yep. Right. So even though like right now is such a strange time where it's everyone in the world is being affected. Let's just say this doesn't ever happen again. But you're still looking at like natural disasters or pockets of economic collapse where, given that it's not the first time the world has ever shut down, having multiple revenue streams in different markets allows for you to completely have a catastrophe in one and not lose your entire life because you have another revenue stream in a separate market. So like sort of isolating your streams. And so for me, that is e-commerce in the aftermarket industry. That's data distribution, still in the same industry, but it's really it's not tied together. I mean, they help each other, but I could lose one without right. losing the other. Then I have whatever the clothing brand, Ride Bikes Bro, is just an offshoot of my channel, which that business model wise really has no overhead. And so it's not like right now I'm panicking that I have a warehouse full of clothes that are never going to get sold and become old. And, that's not happening. And then I am so grateful for my YouTube channel because at 5 years now, maybe almost close to 6 years, the amount of the catalog that I have, I almost have 450 videos. Each one of those makes between $1 to $2 of ads, every month. So like right now, if I don't do anything, I don't make any YouTube videos whatsoever, there is still a residual revenue stream coming in from that. It's small. It's not anything crazy, but it's having one is better than zero, exactly. And so, yeah. So, I mean, that's right now, I'm not cocking the shotgun and bearing the doors down and hiding from the repo man as of where I was in 2008, literally hiding. The repo man came to get my motorcycles, and I had a bunch because I had a motorcycle shop. So I had a Gixxer 750. I had a CRF 450. I had a CR 250. I had a KX 450.
These are all your personal bikes?
Yeah, all my personal bikes. And so then they start coming. And the Kawasaki, I had like made 2 payments on it. And so then he took it and it's like, yeah, that seems fair. But my Gixxer, I only had 1 payment, or maybe it was like 2 or 3 payments left on that. The MSRP on that Suzuki was $10,000. When I look at my statements, I think with interest had paid like $16,000. So I was like, dude, eat it, bro. You're not getting my Gixxer. Like the bank, you made money, man. You're not taking this from me. And so I actually moved the bike into the house, and then he kept coming and I was like hiding under the curtains. Dude, I wasn't going to give that bike up.
Did you?
I didn't. I kept it. I kept it for a long time. Wow. And then I ended up like when we had our son, I wanted to move up into the foothills, and to get some money to move up into the foothills, I had to sell it, which was like a dagger to the heart because it was the last thing that tied me to that old world. I think
it's cool to hear that type of a story. It's like how you prepared yourself to withstand what we're going through. And, it's weird because my business partner and I, without knowing it, I mean, if we wouldn't have made the adjustments in our business 3 years ago that we made and shift the market that we work with to who we work with now, we used to work with brick and mortar only businesses, car dealership, motorcycle dealerships, restaurants, you name it. And a lot of areas that we weren't passionate about, like law firms. Don't care about law firms, but we work with them. Well, they're shut down right now. Dentist office, chiropractors. It wasn't until I said, you know what, screw it. I'm going to chase my passion and work in the moto and cycling space. And we're only going to work, or primarily going to work with online businesses. I didn't know it, but if I wouldn't have made that shift, we probably would be laying our staff off, because a lot of the clients that are brick and mortar are going to be sending us a message at this point saying, hey, dude, we're shut down for at least 2 weeks. We got to pause our marketing spend. Then how am I going to pay for my staff and my business partner and myself? So I think it's something that, you might be hearing this and saying, well, yeah, duh, I wish I would have, made this adjustment 6 years ago. It's not, look, this will end. It's not too late. And if this isn't a sign for you to, if you're a dealership, to start generating that online presence, reach out to Tyler. If it's not his niche, he can lead you in the right direction. ask us questions about, I mean, even we've talked about Shopify, do something to get yourself online to where you will have that, because the internet doesn't shut down in times like this. So, it's a scary situation.
But I think people think it's so daunting, and it really is sometimes. Like if you wanted to try to take a Parts Unlimited catalog of 100,000 SKUs and put it online, yeah, that's like not great. But you got to start somewhere. You have to start somewhere, and you got to start building upon that. And it can be, again, really scary, but moving into like content creation. I mean, that is, I don't know why, but on Facebook, I get blasted by all these Facebook gurus are like telling you how to make online content. You know what I mean? But when I talk to businesses, and so in my daily grind, I mean, I've been telling all of our clients like different things that they need to do. One of the things that I've told literally everyone that I've ever spoke to, so maybe 150 people, and no one has ever done it, is I say, they were like, well, how do I get more sales? How do I get organic traffic? How do I make this online thing work? Because what they do is they build a website and they expect all of a sudden this rush of customers. And you didn't, you built a physical location, and they think when they're building a website that they've built a physical location on Main Street and everyone's going to come. You built it in the middle of the desert with no roads, right? That's when you day one of your website, it's not accessible to anyone. You need to build those roads to your location. And one of those ways is to create content that actually answers questions, right? And so what I tell our clients is to do a before you buy type of content, because these people know this. They have all this, a lot of them, they have shops and they're working on cars, they're working on Jeeps. They know all the little inside, tips and tricks that a general customer wouldn't know. So I say, make a piece of content that is before you buy headlights, LED lights, right? Write up a little article that says, well, before you buy, what is it you're looking for? Are you trying to go, night crawling? Or is this just a pavement pounder? Are you competition? Okay, well, if you're competition, then there's these lumens for these LED lights, and this is what you need. If it's just a pavement pounder, these ones are cheaper. But yeah, they don't really have a lot of brightness, but it doesn't matter because it's not what you're looking for, right? And so you answer these questions, right? And then you put some links to the products. And if you're good enough, you'll also accompany that by a video. And so if you have a written article plus a video plus links to those products, and it's actually answering a question, if you just kept going with that and you did one every week, the amount of the content that you would have over, say, 2-3 years would be so substantial that it's like fishing. If you're going to go fishing and you're going to throw one lure out, well, what is your chances of catching a fish? Imagine you throw 1 million lures out into the lake. Like, dude, you're catching fish. And so, but you have to start somewhere. You've got to start creating that content. And it's based around, again, answering a question. So with my YouTube channel, some of the success that I've had is the videos that answer a question. People don't need to know who I am at all. Like if it's the one video that they've only watched one video of mine, it might be how to get started with a power meter. Well, when you go onto Google, and I looked at trends, right? I looked at the keyword phrase power meter. Well, the top one was like 150,000 people a month are searching for how to get started with a power meter. So of course, I made a video titled how to get started with a power meter, right? And in the description, I put how to get started in a power meter like a bunch of times, and this is a way that you can grab someone organically without having to pay a ton of money. I mean, yes, there's an investment in the creation of that content, but where people get lost, I think, is one, well, that's a lot of work. I don't really want to do that. Okay, but what are you doing then? Like, are you in business? Are you business to sit on a chair and stare at the wall? I'm like, no, you're here to work, dude. So work. And then the other thing is maybe they create a piece of content that's just sizzle reel. Sizzle reel is like, it's pretty, it's neat, but it doesn't answer a goddamn thing. And so, if I'm going to buy, let's say we're shopping for ice cream, and two companies one has this amazing video of ice cream falling from the sky on someone's head, and it's like, maybe it's super dope. But the other one's like, hey, we've got mint, we've got chocolate, we've got strawberry, we've got organic strawberry, we've got lemon. We can mix the two flavors. You want a strawberry shortcake? Well, here's vanilla and strawberry ice cream. Well, that's answering a kind of a question of like, well, what do you have? What do I like? Versus just a really cool piece of content.
Yeah. So it's funny. You brought up the power meter video, and I laugh if I don't know if we're putting this out as video or just audio. So I'm sitting here laughing, and in my mind, I'm replaying back. I'm like, yeah, I remember the first time I found the Vegan Cyclist YouTube channel, and it was because I YouTubed power meter, because I'm trying to figure out what power meter should I buy. And Tyler's video shows up, and it's exact. So that must be the way a lot of these people are finding you, because that is the exact video that I found. Now, here's the thing. Tyler doesn't even sell power meters. So if a guy that's doing this to just provide education on his channel that doesn't even sell power meters, now you might be affiliated with somebody and get a percentage. I don't know, but I mean, it's literally just that. It's that simple. But here's the big thing, because I know a lot of our clients get caught up on this. They want it to look so high production. They want it to be perfect before they put it out. Can you speak a little bit to that? Because while your videos are extremely creative, they're great, you're not spending thousands of dollars on microphones, lights, makeup. It is very much daily vlog style, meaning you're setting a camera up, you're rocking and rolling. I feel like people get paralyzed by that, and then they never put anything out.
Bro, my first video was shot on a potato, right? It doesn't matter. Casey Neistat says this one thing where his story is king, and everything else just serves the story. So you talk about like, and maybe you're a fan of the Transformer movies, but let's just take Transformers. The budget, $500 million. Okay. Everything. I mean, their cameras are just ridiculous. Like, they have probably millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of different equipment. Everything they did is over the top, but the story sucks. And so when you go and you watch Transformers, or maybe Transformers 1 wasn't so bad, but let's just say like the newest one, you go in and you watch a 2-hour long video that cost $500 million. And when you leave, you go, Dude, $500 million to make someone go, come on. Like, because the story isn't there. So now you look at Blair Witch. What a story, right? A great story. You're on the edge of your seat the whole time. And maybe, young whippersnappers don't remember Blair Witch, but it was shot on a handheld camera. Or let's say, Napoleon Dynamite. That is like, I think one of like both Blair Witch and Napoleon Dynamite, the return on investment. I think Napoleon Dynamite had like $1,000 budget, right? And they ended up doing millions of dollars. I think it was like $100 million. It was like crazy, but the story is good. And so if you can't, not that you have to tell a story all the time, but it's the quality of content. And so that goes from, maybe a big company going, well, we want it to be perfect. We want it to be all these things. Those polished effects of that sometimes can be detrimental actually to what you're trying to say.
So I'm going to interrupt you here. I want to use this as an example. On my other screen, I pulled up one of my favorite videos that you've ever put on your channel. So something that didn't cost a tremendous amount to make versus these film festivals. I mean, I used to be a video producer. That was how I got started in this industry. And then I realized I like building businesses more than creating content. So I got out of it. So I used to go to and watch these film festivals. And some of these film festivals, these guys would spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to make this short film. And I'm like, man, that was boring as hell. As opposed to my first attempt at the Dirty Kansas 200. 8 months ago, it has 152,000 videos. If you watch it, while again, it is done beautifully, it is very much shot like a daily vlog. And you shot some of it on your GoPro, correct?
Yeah. So the Dirty Kansas video was, it was shot on a couple different cameras. Okay. But I would say So I had a GoPro, I had a point and shoot, and then my like nicer camera, my A7. That total budget there is under $2,000 for that camera equipment, right? The point and shoot was like $300. The A7 was like $1,000. And then the GoPros, $300 or $400. Obviously I didn't buy all that right then. I mean, I already had it. And that's one of the things is whatever you have, like, you have an iPhone. I'm sure that you could shoot a really good video with that.
Shooting 4K. I mean,
yeah. There is so much. And, the other thing is, like, I did a video called Breathe, and that one, it's did really well. And what was crazy about that is that I went out for a small ride, and I just had this idea in my head of this, doing this script about breathe. Like, oh, you do all these things, and then breathe. And so then I came home. I used footage I already had. It took me 2 hours to make the breathe video. I grabbed my camera, my A7.
402,000 views on the video that you're talking about right now.
So 400,000 views. And that video cost me nothing, literally $0. Right. I mean, I just grabbed an entry level full frame camera. I mean, again, I spent $1,000 on an A7 with the different lens, but that's like your lowest end camera. There's so many cameras out there, 5,000, 6,000. This is a really cheap camera. Anyway, so I came back and I used footage I already had. And then I just shot a little bit of B-roll of me, like, talking or putting a helmet on or whatever.
Right.
But I mean, that was crazy. But it tells a good story, right? And again, I think one of those things of, like, with a business trying to figure out how do they make that call to action, and that's difficult. Like, because sometimes I'll want to make a call to action, but it just doesn't fit in what I'm doing, right? And so I kind of have to lead on the assumption of people will be interested, and then they'll find me in some way. And I always think, like, the more I go through my business dealings, I feel like it is so much more important to build an audience that you can monetize than a monetization platform or model that works great, but with no audience.
Yeah. I think every business, and this is a moto podcast, so we're going to keep it there. I think every business in the moto space, off-road space, has the potential to do this type of content creation. I mean, I'm going to use my company as an example. Let's face it. Marketing is, I mean, it's not sexy. We're not talking about selling like the flashiest, hottest gear of 2020. We're talking about data-driven marketing creative, a group of nerds that nobody really sees. So how could somebody like us create content? Well, we get creative. We all ride, and we're doing a reality series about a mountain bike team, an e-mountain bike team that we have put together to compete in the GNCC, which is a motorcycle off-road series. We just did a deal with FMF, and we're doing a reality series showing how we're going to get them ROI positive, meaning they've made all their money back and then some within 60 days. So we even find ways to create something that other people are going to be interested in watching. And I think anybody can do that, even if you don't sell motorcycles or gear. Maybe you're like, man, my stuff is boring. It's not. You have to find a narrative and a story that other people are going to watch, and you absolutely can.
Well, that's something that I hear a lot from my web clients is I'll say something. I'm like, hey, why don't you talk about something that's very specific, like how to install a Jeep, a lift kit on a Jeep. And one of the things that I get back from that is everyone knows how to do that. No one cares about that. I'm like, no, you know how to do that. I don't know how to do that. But when you are in the know, you just sort of think like, oh, well, no one really cares about this, like, so the way I edit my videos, I would never think that someone would want to watch how I edit a video, because to me, that's boring as shit. But if you have no idea how to edit a video, if you get Adobe Premiere for the first time and then you just look at this dark gray screen, you're like, what is happening? You would most definitely have an interest in watching someone for 2 hours go through their entire edit. right? Because you would learn so much. And so one of the things is trying to, I can't remember who said this, but like, you're not selling to yourself. You know what I mean? I'm not the customer of what I'm selling, you know, like, so I've got to understand who I'm selling to, what my market is, and then market to them, not to me.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, Tyler, this has been a conversation that I think will wake up several people, help a lot of people in this situation, and it's something that, I mean, we could go 2 hours, but for the sake of time, I'm gonna wrap it up. And I mean, I think what we've covered is there's several aspects to it. I mean, we've talked about, you know, Tyler's transition from brick and mortar to online and the lessons that he learned, what you can do to better prepare yourself as a business to take your business online. And then we even got into the content creation side. I do believe that content is the king of getting the attention. And I used to always say the same thing, similar to what you said about a website. It's not like the movie The Field of Dreams, to where if you build it, they will come. And that's what so many people think of. And your example was beautiful, as far as you built a brick and mortar store in the middle of a desert with no roads to it. So the content, the grabbing of the attention, what Tyler has done with his channel, look at that, use that as a model to figure out, what can I do? Tucker Power Sports. I mean, we had them on recently, and going and looking at Tucker's website of how they use content creation to generate attention and drive traffic to their site. It's something that anybody can do. It's just a matter of, like you said, step up and do it. You're here to work.
Right. Well, I'll leave you off on these two things. One, which is, I think within the next 5 years, no one will buy anything online that doesn't have a video associated with it. Right? 10 years ago, you might buy something online without a picture. Like there was times where it was like no picture found, and you'd be like, well, I'm still gonna buy. Now there's zero chance if there's no picture associated, and if there's not multiple pictures, right? Let's say you just have one shot of a jersey facing forward. Well, that's not good enough anymore. I want side shots. I want shots in action. I want lifestyle shots. And I really think in the next 5 years, no one's going to buy anything without a video of that jersey rotating on a table or in action. And it doesn't have to be anything crazy. Just like grab your iPhone and just do a little pan up the jersey while it's on a table. Even if it doesn't look that great, something in motion is, and I think the analytics show that if there's a video attached to like a product display, the amount of the sales, penetration on that is through the roof compared to just static images. So one image, terrible. Multiple images, better. Multiple images with a video, fantastic. Also, that video being housed on YouTube with the same name that drives back. So then Google's got this whole little web of everything. And then the other thing is, we talk about diversifying your revenue streams. Whatever the business is that you're in, maybe you get into YouTube not to sell your products, but to just tell a story. And eventually that could end up being a revenue stream, right? And so, if you're worried about selling products, if you're worrying about selling, let's just say that's your main goal, is to sell on your YouTube channel, you're going to get commission breath. And it's going to be all about, making that call to action. If you threw that out the window and you said, okay, I'm going to make content about this story, this guy doing this mountain bike race, this guy doing this moto race, maybe you're a local shop and you sponsor a kid on an 80 and you follow him around for a couple weeks doing the local races. You don't say, hey, come and grab your Kawasaki at my dealership. You just show him doing the thing he does and get to know that kid. In a roundabout way, people they're going to know your name. They're going to feel more comfortable with you. It's going to be a warm handshake. And if nothing else, potentially you start monetizing your YouTube channel and maybe you get a lot of views. I mean, some of these guys, Buttery Films, dude, that guy's he's killing. He's killing, right? I mean, they're making money and you're in business to make money. So why not potentially look at doing something else so that in this time, because if you had a YouTube channel for your business that was based on good storytelling and content, not about direct sales to whatever it is that you're selling, you would be so pumped right now, because that would be the only thing really making you money during this really weird month of our world.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, everything that Tyler said, I completely agree wholeheartedly with. I think it's something that if now is your sign say, hey man, let's start building this up. Again, we're going to get back to work. Life's going to resume to normal. How big of a hit you take, it's going to differ from other people. But if there has ever been a sign that, hey, maybe I should start to build my online presence, if this isn't it, maybe the end of the world is, because it doesn't get much worse than some of the situations that some folks are in that literally don't have a business to go to, that their staff has been laid off. So I hope that you guys have found this valuable. I can't recommend enough for you to follow Tyler on social media, on YouTube. Number one, his content is extremely interesting. I watch it all the time. My business partner has become a big fan of the Vegan Cyclist channel. So it's great content, but then also you can watch it to model and just get ideas of how simple it can be and still be such a powerful story. Tyler, where can people find you on YouTube and Instagram or anywhere else?
Yeah, so YouTube, the Vegan Cyclist. If you look at more of my recent videos, I got some bangers, man. My Dirty Kansas video is really good. I've got a lot of different stories that I think that I'm real happy with. Also, I'm pretty active on Instagram. So again, the Vegan Cyclist, and I won't yell at you about bananas. And I'm super into Moto. I did a Moto video with my son. My wife was out of town, and I took my 2-year-old daughter and my 8-year-old son at the time out to the oldest running motorcycle track in America, Little Okie. And I race, dude. I'm an action dad. So if my boy is riding, I'm riding. You know what I mean? And so I did that. I also did the Supercross Futures in Oakland with my son. Unbelievable. And that video is going to come out shortly too. So if you care nothing about cycling whatsoever, I do have a little bit of moto content. And like I said, I ride motos at least once a week, and I put that on Instagram and stuff. So.
And Tyler rips. Like the first time I saw your Moto video, I'm like, oh man, he can jump this stuff. And then when you went to Supercross Futures, I'm like, I'll be curious to see what you're able to do on the track. I mean, like, Tyler rips for a roadie, cyclist. Like, Tyler rips. So definitely, my business is in Moto. I'm nowhere near as skilled on a motorcycle as Tyler. So check it out. Man, listen, you were one of the first folks that I wanted to get on the show. I'm pumped that you listen to the show. I think your story can help and is going to help a lot of people. So I'm super appreciative of you jumping on here with us today.
Awesome, man. Let's have me on for a part 2 and talk more about Moto, dude. I'd talk for a whole hour about the Supercross Futures business model and how that is going to completely change Supercross as a sport. And so, bringing my son into the sport and what a working dad has to do to be competitive. And I mean, like the whole team dad type mentality sometimes. We could talk forever about that, but I really appreciate you having me on, man. I hope that you're staying safe in your neck of the woods, and I'll see you virtually for the next, couple weeks.
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening to the Moto Marketing Podcast. If your goal is to get real, measurable results from your marketing that will grow your company revenue, then check out how Impakt Media can get the same results that they have for Moto's most iconic brands by visiting thinkimpakt.com. That's THINKIMPAKT.com. Have a marketing question that you want answered on the show? Send your questions to questions@motomarketingpodcast.com. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. And we'll catch you on the next episode of the Moto Marketing Podcast.